So I've labelled this clip how to use the Force. And basically, I don't know if any of you have ever played any of those Lego games, but whenever you build anything, it grabs up and moves the objects around. Well, what I want to do here is, you'll see that I've created a floating island with Elsa's castle on there. And I've got these objects tried to look like futuristic pillars. But what I want my character to do, I want my character to come up and move these objects using the Force to form a bridge. So a Jedi can come on and move these up. And as you'll see, if I go into one of these objects are purely just basic shapes that I've then used the fill palette to choose a palette to make it look like a solid shape. And I've tried my best to make it look like a chimney or a tower of some sort that fits in with the environment. Looks a bit weird, I'm still not 100% convinced. But what I want to do is I want to pick up this object, and I'm just going to move this object where I would like this object to appear. So as I use the Force, these objects are going to fly through the screen. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to position where I want the final place of these objects to exist. So I'm going to have that position there. So I'm going to move my wand back up and take the next object. So I'll select that. This time I'm actually pressing the X, moving that, and I'd like this object to move across. And as you see, it's going to build like a stepping stone over the gap, so I could get to the castle. Making sure I've got to do a proper jump to make it, and I don't want to make it too easy for anyone. Place that one there, and I'm going to move all the other objects so they've all gone. Now I can position these at different heights. These particular square objects, the characters can grab onto the edge. So you could make it harder for in your gameplay. It depends how you want to do it. I'm going to keep this nice and easy. I'm just going to move these across to all the same level so I can jump all the way to the other side. Move that back there. So I've now created my stepping stones. And then I put it there. That's it. There's all my 4 steps will get me across the valley. Perfect. Right, so what I need to do now is I need to record the path where these objects are going to go. So I'm just going to move back. These are going to be a temporary shape just to get an idea of where the shapes were. So I had them positioned so there's an identical gap between the two of them. So I'm just going to make sure I line up where I want them to go, and you'll notice I've got it on the frame. So I'm just going to click this shape here just so I can help myself line up the path. I knew there was a gap in between, so that's where the next piece. So I'm going to click those two there. These pieces are going to be deleted, but it's purely helping me to line these items up. So what I need to do now is I need to create the path for all those objects to go. So if I get back to my tools and go back to the creativity toys, right, and I want my famous one that I love so much, the path creator. Now, one thing I noticed, when you use the path creator, when you attach an object to it, it always goes to the bottom. So you'll see here that I'm going to stick this at the bottom of the screen. So I'm just trying to line up that when I place it in, that will be the dead center of that box. So that base will be there, and I'm going to click that in. So what I'm going to do now is drag a path, and the beauty of this is I'm going to drag the path now all the way to where I want the shape to appear. Now when I was first trying this out, I thought I had to set the shape up first, but this is the end result, and every time you attach an object to a path, the object will move to the starting point. Therefore, I could move the objects to the end first, so it helps me line them up and position these where I exactly want to go. So I was guaranteed that I was going to get these to appear. So I make sure it's in the center of the shape. That is the first path that the object will fly to. Right, I'll come back out of there. I'm now going to do the second base, which I'll line that up now with the other item I've got. So I know it's in the center. Move it back down. So that's now where the next shape's going to be. And I'm going to drag this path out. And I'm just going to try and not get them to overlap, but to move around. And you can play around with this, you can make it different speeds, because I remember when you play the Lego game, these shapes fly through the air quickly and build it, and I was trying to do something like that, or build some sort of shape or some sort of tool. So I'll just position this, and I can move them up or down. So this one's going to go up for some apparent reason. then I'm going to move it across, then I'm going to bring it back down. And then I'm going to drag that across, and then hopefully move that to the square, so that's where I want the shape to appear. Okay, and by having them here, you know you're going to pinpoint it exactly. So I'm then going to go back. Now the other ones, remember, it's the base, so I want to line it up. It's got to go a bit high because it's where the bottom of the shape appears, not the top, it's the bottom. So it's the bottom part there, that's where it'll fit on top of it. It's in line with the other one, great. So I'm now going to move this across, go up a bit, so don't clash. And again, just plot part there. You can do really fancy movements, and I'd say this is why I like the path tool. I think it's really quite handy. But again, just finding different ways how to use this. Right, move this around. Get it to come over here. And again, line that one up. That one's up, perfect. That's in. And then my last one. Now when I keep moving these back, I don't like the exit button you have to circle, because sometimes I keep on binning my paths that I make, so be careful with this. Right, I'm going to go up again, so I'm in line, got those in line, click onto that one. I'm going to go now to the other side, and I'm going to try and get it to loop underneath the hole. That was trying to get a little bit fancy route. So going back down, and then I obviously want to bring this back because this is the first one. So I've got now my path of all the 4 objects flying across. And circle out. So that there is now the route that I've got. And they all fly from the objects. Now I can't see anything because these shapes are now in the way. So what I'm going to do now is I'll get rid of these shapes. Don't need them anymore. They're purely to help me to line things up so they can go. Be careful not to delete your paths that you've got. Now before I add the shapes, I need to configure each of the path tools. So I'm going to go to each particular one. I'm going to go into connecting on there. Now what I'm going to go to properties, and this is important. You don't make the thing active, you switch it off. Because when you add a shape to it, the shape will start moving, and I don't want the shape to move. So I need to go to all these points, and I want to change it and say active off. So that when I connect those shapes to the path, they will move and be stationary. Now every time I practiced this one, I kept on going in, go to properties, switch it off, and then I kept on deleting the flipping thing, which drove me insane. So be careful with this, take your time. That circle and exit gets mixed up occasionally times, and we'll set those all to be off. So those paths now are all switched off. Right, so now that I've done that option too, that all those paths are now switched off, ready to go, before I start moving the shapes, I need to set up what triggers those things in the first place. And there's this quite cool tool that allows you to, it's like a switch, and if I just find it here in your creativity toys, I'm not too sure which one unlocks it, but you'll see here we come across, and it's called the Holocron Switch. Now what this switch is, it basically means only a Jedi can use this. So those characters that use, those Disney Infinity characters that aren't Jedi, won't be able to use this switch, and therefore will not be able to move the objects within your game. Therefore gives a bit more control. They can do it, and it is just basically an on-off switch, but can only be used by certain characters. So I quite like this one. So I'm just going to place that in between the tower and drop that in there. Now, like I say, before we do the other items, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to link all those paths to that switch. So when a Jedi character goes in there, it's going to activate that item. So I'm going to go to my little switch there. I'm going to go to my settings on the square button, new logic connection. When triggered, I'm going to go to my first path, click onto that, and so when you get to there, can you switch it on? And when you switch it on, the objects will start to move. Yeah, so can I put that one on? Remember, we switch these switches off. So do the next one, I've got to do this to all 4. Now it's so much easier to do it before you put the shapes in place. So I'm dropping this in here now, because when the shapes are in there, it's very tricky to find out what item you want. But I go through each one and I set these all to be on. So I'll just go through and do this. Can you switch? Get that one there, switch it on. Okay, with that across, and so I switch that on. Perfect. So that's now done. Now I'm ready for the final stage. I now need to link those boxes back to their relevant path. So what I'm going to do now is get a pad up and go to my spark mode, and this is where I tend to delete all the objects. So let's pick the first one here, right? So if I move on to that object there, go down, and I'm going to press the X to move it. In fact, I'm pressing X, I'm going to press square, and I'm going to say new logic path, not X, sorry, square, new logic path. I'm going to connect it to that path. And when I connect it to that path, and I do connect, and I connect toy box path, the object now jumps into that place, right? But because the thing's not switched off, the item doesn't move. So when I go to settings on this one, and do new logic path, move my mouse across, and go on to this particular option, press the square button in here, and do toy box path, the object will snap to it. But if I had left it turned on, it instantly starts to move, and I don't want that to happen. So each one I go through to. As you'll know, this is why it came in so handy to lay them out first, so I know where the end result goes, and now they all go back into place. So it's like a jigsaw puzzle, but backwards. So I'm never too happy with this spark option, but get on the spark. Right. Where is it? Come on. There it is. So it's toy box path, connect it. Right. Now, you're not finished yet. You think you've done everything at the moment, it's all ready to go. Right, but there's one more thing you need to do, so click into there. The default for the path is to go back in a loop, so it'll cross it and it'll jump back and constantly keep moving. So although I've got those objects connected, which is good, I need to tell it I just want it to play once and then stop. Okay, so if I just come out of this altogether, right, let's go back. So what I need to do now, I need to go to each one of those shapes, go to square, and I'm going to go down to properties. And in those properties, I need to go toy box path, and if I go right to the very bottom, there's an option right down there which is called where is it? Movement style, and it's on loop. I need to change that one, and I want it to play one way and then stop. Otherwise, the objects don't stop moving, and you'll never make it across. Okay, and then once I've set that option, I come back, but I need to do that to all 4 shapes. So properties, toy box path, go all the way down. Go to style and choose one way and stop. Come all the way back out. Same again with the other one. So go to your settings. And again, I'm always wanting to press the circle button here and delete the flipping shape and then curse away. So change that back to style, one way and stop. Okay, come back out, and we'll do the last one, and then we'll be ready to give this one a go. That's it, they're all done. So we've now connected our items up. If I take all of them, we are ready to play the game and use the object. So in the game, if your character should walk across, so if I just turn around, so depending on what your story is going through, we come to these shapes. As I walk up to it, as I get right up to the box, the trigger will then come up, use the force. And if I press the square button, that will then trigger those items off. But just to prove a point, it's not a Jedi character, if I add on Han Solo here, so let's swap my characters over. Okay, so I've got Han Solo now. Now when he walks up to the box, nothing happens. Doesn't tell him to use the force, doesn't believe in the force. Mumbo magic and all that stuff, so he can't use it at all. Only a Jedi character could, which means he now has to use a different route to get across the castle. I'll just change it back. Back in action. So as you'll now notice, he's got the force option back. So let's just jump back out of here for a second. So we see Elsa's castle. We need to get to it. And we could have an objective saying find the way. I come across, I've got some pillars here. As I walk up to it, it says use the force. So let's do it. Let's hold the square button down. And hey presto, he is moving the objects. Now I may want to make them move quicker, because in the Lego games they fly through quicker, but my shapes are now moving all nicely back, and the bridge is now, he is good with the force. Now I've got to do is jump. Obviously I've got to jump well, so I've made it so you've got to make sure you jump correctly on the screen. Yeah, so I've got them just far enough to challenge the user. Yeah, the next one. Oh, just hanged on the edge there. Across. Let's try and make the last one. Hey, makes it to the castle. Hopefully not going to get fallen off. Whoa, close. Take it back, and hey, we've made it across. And that's a clip on showing you how to use the force. I hope you find that of use, a different way of using it. I thought it was quite a cool tool, and I like the fact that only certain Disney Infinity characters can use that particular route. So if you're playing two-partner game, one person can do it, another person can't. I hope you find the clip enjoyable. Thanks a lot.